my
You need
we're
an alarm
live
for that?
alarm. So no, it just
Coincidentally.
there are certain mileposts that it helps to keep track of during the day and stuff. So I normally don't do it midday, so I tried to incorporate that into my schedule with mixed results. So
So if you don't brush your teeth by noon, the day is shot, and you're just not bothering until later that evening.
no, it's just like that's where my working lunch is, and so it's just like it's also my lunch alarm, but that's not what the alarm actually says, and just all of that
Multi-purpose
stuff.
alarm.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, here's a reminder for all the 5 things you didn't do yet. Now see if you can remember what those 5 things were.
I'm a little bit more detailed than that usually, but yeah. So, you're too busy when you have one alarm to cover like 3 tasks, because like this one.
I got one alarm to wake me up. That's it.
Nice.
Intro?
Does it wake you up before you go?
Yeah. Don't leave me hanging on like a yo-yo.
Welcome to While We Weren't Recording, the show where we peel back the curtain and dive into everything except the Dresden Files, and today we're delving into the Aeronaut Windlass once again. Don't forget to check out our YouTube and Patreon, and more on that at the end of the show.
You can't put a disclaimer like we're not going to discuss the Dresden Files as if we don't reference it every time anyway.
Not to mention we're talking about a book series from the same author, so it is like
the script is what the script is.
And a main character that wears a duster.
Script can't be changed.
Yeah.
It's set in stone, like
we
the
don't
Ten
do
Commandments.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do first draft
summary. Clearly.
Right.
First draft, and we just run with it.
You're lucky we have a script at this point. Like, how long has it taken us to get back to the here?
9 years.
We used to have a script. So,
Was
but then somebody decided that she likes cold opens. And
I just want to make J-Ray happy.
Yeah.
We'll be like Bill O'Reilly. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah.
Do it like Joe Rogan. They literally just go live like complete cold open, I believe.
I don't know if I could do it like Joe Rogan because I'm not sure that I could just smoke on the air. So
I mean,
you can
do
house,
that.
Maybe if we get a studio, when we get Joe Rogan levels of money.
Do you live in a state where you can do that?
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I'm not sure. Like Utah, I think we finally got medicinal, but I'm not sure that I could just like light up. On
you look like you got some anxiety or something. Like I don't know.
I mean, having to put up
with who doesn't?
All the rest of us.
Like, yeah. I'm a millennial. That's like a defining feature, isn't it? Like, I'm sorry, guys. I've eaten too much avocado toast and I can't afford a house payment. Give me some, shut up. Sorry. I got too into the joke, and so I was like, nah.
For anybody that's listening, if you would like to feed Justin's avocado toast habit,
that would be funny. Except I like avocado toast and I can't afford a house,
dude. Yeah, people who don't like avocado toast don't know what they're talking about, but that is not the reason why the housing market is bullshit either. So, the joke got too real.
It's the Starbucks coffee and the avocado toast. It's not just
if you didn't buy avocado toast and Starbucks, you would be able to buy a house. No.
Says the guy who got his like assigned to him at birth by his government. So
that is not how it works.
They gave him a pot and he grew it out into a room, and now
he's not a fairy. Like, come on. So,
I mean,
what you don't know. Where were we?
Anything you want to wrangle us in, director? Feel free. You're running this.
Sure. We made it like 2 chapters last time, right? Let's do this. Let's go.
Okay.
At least 3.
We're starting at chapter 44 at 63% through this book.
Oh God.
69 today.
If we can make good progress, we can go past that too.
We're doing the rest of it. We're doing all of it. Let's go.
In what world?
Or a 4-hour episode. Let's go.
All right, Joe. You're going to need to lay off the MJ a little bit. So.
All right. So when we left, Folly and Bridget got kidnapped again. And so now
only like
Raoul,
the 3rd time this book.
Yeah. Raoul is moving with flawless competence through shadows behind the group of men that had seized them, which meant, of course, he was not observed by anyone whom he did not permit to observe him. And he's so confident this is all Bridget's fault because she said to scout out all the dangers in front of them. She did not say to scout for the dangers that were behind them, which is where the men came from. And he is so angry at her for allowing this to happen.
Malicious compliance.
Yes. So now Raoul has to try to save them because they're not going to save themselves, clearly. And so Raul is plotting all of the deaths of the men, and including the half soul Syriaco that was with them. And he's thinking and he's plotting and he's thinking about what Non had said about the Silk Weavers and all of the Aurorans. And he runs into Merle, because Merle is also a spy cat that is able to surprisingly to show up and be helpful. She kind of just hovers around.
Silent Whiskers, right? Was that a tribe, or was that, because Silent Paws was his tribe, right? But they called them something else. I thought too.
I think she is a whisker.
Gotcha.
And that's what they call it.
Okay, a whisker of the Silent Paws. Maybe that's where I'm pulling the memories. Gotcha.
I think so. Okay. And Raul tries to be angry at Merle and saying, I might have killed you, but you would need to have noticed her first. And she's quite smug at the fact that even though she's deferring to him with their hierarchy, she got the drop on him.
Right.
Yeah. What are you doing here? He is demanding. She says, it's my duty. Maul and Longthinker sent me on a trail. So Raul's father and Albion sent her on the trail, and that led to her to there with the Aurorans and the Silk Weavers and the tunnels. There are Silk Weavers guarding them because scary. And so Raul asks Merle to do a thing for him. And she acquiesces. It's kind of clear that she's just doing a favor. She's not doing it because he's ordering her to do it. It is some token of friendship, but also something of the hierarchy. He asks her to go to the ship trees, essentially, and therefore get the humans to help and come back. And she's just like, but humans don't understand proper speech. So how does this thing work? Am I to find one and scratch him until he runs in the proper direction?
I mean,
if it works.
People have moved for less.
Yes. There are humans on a ship of wood with tall trees on it, and its sole purpose is to transport me. I have declared it mine, and my scent is upon it. Contact the human warrior with 2 red stripes upon his sleeves and a reasonably sized hat. Not the biggest hat. It's reasonably sized. He is less dense than most.
If it was too big, then Raul wouldn't have authority.
Yeah. And so while Merle is going to go speak to humans, Raul is going to go conquer the 9 Claws. Relatively short chapter, around 45.
See, and you were worried we'd only get through 2.
Yeah, but that's cheating. So,
what is the expression? I live with a wizard. I cheat. You do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
See, and we mentioned Dresden too. So, ha, Andreas.
Boom.
Stick on script.
I refuse.
All right. On the Predator, Grim and Creedy and the crew are arming up to go wandering around the tunnels with a lot of weapons.
As you do.
Entire battalion of Marines have landed. It's imperative that we catch them while they're still in the tunnels. And they know it's not going to be a good fight. It never would be.
He's got to get himself a cruiser so that he can have a contingent of his own Marines so that he stops getting his aeronauts killed, you know?
Yes. He's got a couple Marines, right?
He's got some people that served fleet, but I don't know if he had, like, Kettle is just Kettle, right?
Right.
But like, I don't think he has, like, he doesn't even have Warriorborn on his crew.
But anyone's
right?
a Marine that's like in the like the Aurora Navy, aren't they? Are they all Marines?
No.
Okay, so it's specifically like an elite thing. Marine also here.
Well, yeah, I mean, Marines are shipboard soldiers, basically, like, to overly simplify. And so Marines can't sail like aeronauts, and aeronauts can't fight like Marines. You know, they kind of go into that just a bit more in the next book too. But you know, that's kind of a thing. It's like there is some overlap in the skills there, but for the most part, Marines aren't going to be expected to be able to sail a ship, and certainly not as well as an aeronaut can. And an aeronaut's job is to sail a ship and not fight, you know. Now, Grimm's guys are probably a little bit more competent in the fighting because they're privateers, and so boarding actions are bound to happen, and that sort of thing. And so aeronauts can fight, but it's not really the same thing. And that's why, like, it comes up multiple times that it's like, Grimm's soldiers, like Grimm's aeronauts win because of mass, not because they're good at fighting. Like, shoot, what's the lieutenant's name?
Creedy?
Sorry, spoilers. No, the other guy.
Oh,
Is it Stern? Is
Stern with the gun.
Yeah. So some of them can shoot. Creedy can shoot. Stern can shoot. Stuff like that. They're riflemen. But other than that, it's just like hit them hard and fast, right? That's always Grimm's strategy, because if we get in an actual shootout, we're going to lose. So.
I think every one of Grimm's like ship hands essentially also, if not they were Marines, they kind of like most of them act like it anyway, right? If there's combat, they all fight on his boat.
Right, but
Well,
there's still a difference,
Yeah, and that could easily be an aspect of his, like if he runs his ship with some of that experience as a backlog, they would be different than, say, his wife's crew, even though they seem pretty competent too.
Right, and to clarify,
I think they must be trained by him, if nothing else.
Grimm has a lot of former fleet people, which is still not the same as Marines. Like, Marines is a subset of the fleet, but it's not, that's not an overlapping Venn diagram, right? Those are not concentric circles. And so, maybe he does have some people who have, been in the Marines or whatever, but that's a job that they get training. That's a career. Look at the Auroran Marines. Like, those guys have had a career. They've been in other engagements that we don't get a lot of input from Grimm's crew, that any of them have a similar kind of background. The main competent fighters seem to be Stern or Kettle, and mostly just because Stern's good with a gun and he seems to be like sharper than most, right? He's not NPC number 5. He's got a name, so but sorry, plot stuff leaked in with the whole
Yeah.
like writing tropes and stuff, but
all right. So, going back to this, as they're trying to leave the Predator and go do plot things, Benedict came out of the hospital room, essentially, the sick bay, and he's quite upset because Gwen still hasn't woken up yet. Ferris and Dr. Baggin were in there, and they didn't say how she's doing. And Grimm says, well, then there's hope, because if she was dying, Baggin would have said so. It's hard for Benedict to just leave Gwen and go do onto anything else, but also Folly and Bridget need rescuing, as always. Ferris is trying to leave the sick bay and can't, because the doorknob just keeps rattling, and so Benedict opens it. Ferris seems pleased with himself, and then Grimm just asks, what is the child's condition? And Ferris is like, child, sir? Have you ever slain a Silkweaver matriarch? Point taken. 16-year-old is no longer a child. She'll be fine, assuming she wakes up. So, even though they've done all these preparations of wanting to leave immediately and go do the plot things, as Ferris points out, they won't be leaving right away because they have no need to seek the enemy. The enemy has come to them. Cavendish has arrived at the Predator.
What's life without a good tea party?
Yep. And that is exactly, of course, what happens after the pleasantries of she's asking permission to come aboard. And Grimm asks Ferris, like, ought we take her? You can't. You haven't the necessary tools, because all of their tools are basically going to be etheric based. Bad idea, as we learned in the beginning of the book. You think we should parley with her? Well, merciful builders and God in heaven, no. She cannot be offered, or cannot be trusted. Offer her tea.
Just not her blend.
Yeah. Although she didn't poison anyone with her blend, she does still care about her tea. She murdered people other ways.
Yeah, poisoning people with tea, that would be rude.
Yes. Horribly impolite.
You mean like making them scratch out their own eyes isn't rude?
No, but
Look,
they were
and it's
rude
very
first.
complicated.
Yeah.
I did not go to etiquette school, so I couldn't tell you what is rude and not rude about scratching
Well,
out eyes.
I did, as you can tell, so I will tell you exactly what is rude and not rude.
And so Grim has to offer her tea, and she thinks, that would be such a lovely, gracious offer. And he says, okay, this way, madam, if I may be so bold to ask, do you prefer sugar or honey in your tea? And that's next chapter. So we got through at least 2 so far.
Sweet, look at us chugging along.
Cooking with gas, man.
And this was even after Andreas rudely interrupted us to talk about Marines.
And this is what a script gets you. We're just like, pop it, man. We're just going.
Mhm.
Okay.
Rudely. Okay, yeah. Jesus. I'll shut up then.
Did I or did I not just get through saying that I am the one who decides what etiquette is?
Wait, Mr. Ferris
Wow.
is here?
Yeah.
Well,
It's true.
Something
A
popped
wizard
on, but there's
is
no
never
person and no sound. So
He arrives precisely when he means to. 4 episodes later, 15 minutes.
Oh, look, Andreas gets to back on someone else for being late now.
I 2 times a year when the time zones get shit. Well, you know what? I'm not going into this.
oh, now you're not going into this?
No, we talked about this already.
Since when has that ever bothered you?
Okay. All right. So Grim, because of his privilege of being a captain on an airship, gets to have an electric tea kettle. And this is the deluxe model that he sprung extra for. And it's something that he only gets to have because he's on an airship that lives on the etheric energies on it. Like, he has electricity in the ship. The Spire does not have this because they don't have the etheric waves just like going through everything to be able to do the electricity. But he gets to. So in exchange for being cramped in a tiny little wooden compartment, he gets tea.
Yeah. It's kind of wild if you think about it, though, too, because it's like, we know the etheric energies are passing through the tower. Presumably, they're used to power a lot of the other amenities, right? Like the vats. Where did the vats get powered? You know, stuff like that. Where is all of that getting powered? And yet it's such a novel thing for them to have, you know, quote unquote, electricity on the ships. So it's an interesting bit of world building. To me, it's more like a disconnect between what the builders set up and what these guys know about the builders' technology. Like, it's entirely possible maybe that the builders just had like wireless, you know, like transmission, and so they're just like, I don't know how to tap into that or whatever, you know, because otherwise they would have run, you know, some kind of channel throughout the whole tower, right? They would have wall outlets because presumably this is our world in the future, you know, similar kinds of technology, you know, or at least
I was going to say that's what brought down this world. It was 5G all along.
Right. Well, and that's the other part too, is like, you know, did they harness etheric energy on purpose, or, you know, again, is it a science that was always there, or did it get introduced and it's a problem, you know, in the sense that, like, is it what's causing the corrosion on steel? And, you know, just as a happy byproduct, they're able to channel it into energetic uses. You know, there's just a lot of questions there potentially. So.
You know, if it's one of those latter possibilities, then it would be like local technology creating some local Lackion field or whatever, like that one episode of DS9 where no technology works because the crazy lady buried a technology suppressor somewhere. So it'd be something like that, because it is the same universe, right? It's not some innate universal thing, because it's the same universe that Alara's in, unless this is just a different manifestation of fury energy.
Not a
no, and that's the thing. Like, it clearly seems to relate to the sun, because they have to wear goggles when they're outside because of the etheric currents, right? So there's some interchange there. Polaric lenses seem to block the energy. So that's why I'm saying is, like, was that it, like, is he playing it in the sense that it was like, it's just a different kind of solar output than what we're aware of? Is it a different kind of science? Or did somebody do something to the sun to just kind of weaponize it, right? You know, and so, like, I understand that the second one is probably less likely, but, you know, it's still worth exploring the possibilities.
That would definitely mean that on the inside of a spire, you're not just protected from it, but you wouldn't have as easy access to all your etherical magic. So is this why cannons are more powerful, or cannons would be more powerful outside, right? The spire than inside. But then so would
Theoretically,
etherealists. So if that's
Right.
true, right? Do you go full avatar state if you're an etherealist jumping into the wind, or do you?
But
And
that's
that
not
doesn't seem like the direction he's going, though.
I mean,
Yeah.
because gauntlets still work inside the spire. Isn't
Right,
they don't
exactly.
seem more or less
Gauntlets
powerful
are their
inside or
own-
outside?
Gauntlets
Well,
are
they're still
channeling
ethereal.
etheric energy, though. They're like
Sure.
etheric generators, right? Like they're not grabbing latent etheric energy, is what I'm saying. They're power crystals. They're just specifically designed to channel explosive bursts of energy. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it's an interesting point of world building that it's like, yes, aeronauts with our fancy, plug-in toaster, and like I think that's a thematic kind of thing, right? That's just aeronauts get their little bit of luxuries and some other stuff like that. It's just kind of interesting when you think about it as a spire, because you would imagine, just think of spires being like vaults, right? And it's like this is where everybody is supposed to go bunker down. This is where everybody's supposed to be theoretically safe. Obviously they're focused on your 4 pillars of survival, but you're telling me that they just didn't at all think to include something for basic amenities, and that, to me, I don't think that's the answer. I think it's more likely that it's Clark's third law, sufficiently advanced technology, and they've forgotten how to use it. I think that would be more kind of what we're going for. But
Outside the world building, though, I think this is very clearly just the what if scenario of what if the Michelson-Morley experiment confirmed the existence of ether. What does that mean? What is it's keeping this pre 1870s theory of ether? What if that were true? And then you put in the steampunk world, because that's true to the era, and the aesthetic is true to the era. And what if the experiment was flipped on its head, and this is the world you get? But then he kind of, I think he built the backstory into that. So he created a backstory around that premise rather than. So I think there's some of the stuff that's probably in his little series Bible, and some stuff that's he's just making up as he goes along.
Maybe, yeah.
Right. Back to the tea kettle.
5 minutes about a tea kettle. Go us.
So Cavendish is impressed. She thought about having gotten one of those things herself. It's the Fedori model out of Spire Jersey. Right. I had to figure out what that one was again. Right. Grimm says that I don't mind missing meals when it comes to that, but I simply can't do without a good cup of tea in the afternoon. And Ferris does the honors and pours out the tea. They don't have cream. It's less than fresh, but Cavendish quite likes honey. And honey is expensive, and they use up all the last of Grimm's honey.
Charge it to the Spire Arc.
Right.
Yeah, he will. And here is the discussion about why a ship of the Navy or fleet or anything else gets to have electricity while the Spire doesn't. Given the amount of time required to produce power crystals, they're nearly always slated for use aboard ships, and the expansion of each Spire's Navy in today's troubled world is an absolute priority. And so therefore the crystals that would power such things inside the Spire are just not given thought.
Okay, so they just have a different kind of power crystal to power their vats and shit, probably. That's, I don't know. It's interesting because, there's a lot of questions about the power crystals themselves at that point too. Does it go back to they're channeling etheric energies or they're generating etheric energies, type of thing?
Well, are you talking about the vats where Bridget is, or are you talking about where the crystals are made? Because I imagine that,
Yes.
Both.
Where the crystals are, and that since why am I blanking on her name? His family runs it. I imagine they have whatever crystals they need to power their stuff.
Crystals making crystals?
and like Well,
Oh, yeah.
the crystal generation itself, it's a vat, and so it's a crystal, so it could be an entirely chemical process, right? And that
Well, it
could make
probably
sense
is.
why it takes centuries, but
No,
you know, but like the meat vats, like I find that hard to believe that there isn't some kind of introduced,
Right. Well,
element there.
I guess, I mean, since they used to be a prominent family, they might have an heirloom crystal somewhere.
Sure. I know that none of this is relevant, otherwise it'd be in the story, but this is where, my daydreaming happens while I'm reading some of this stuff and, comes out while we're talking about it. But
and this is why we're 25 minutes in.
like,
We've got
yeah.
2.5 chapters.
But also, yeah, I mean, because I won't let it go. But yeah, it's like he usually cares enough about the science, right, that he probably has an answer, right? So I'll just write it down. It's fine when we do our interview. So
There's also a touch of point that I find funny about capitalism. Necessity and survival needs must take precedence over convenience, except for airship captains, it would seem. Consider the Fedori Company. Think how rapidly their shops would grow if they could supply demand for so large a market. And who knows what other products might be available. Supplying to the citizenry of Spires could usher in a new era of peace and prosperity. Everyone could have everything and plentiful. It's the capitalist dream.
is that Cavendish
Cavendish.
nonsense? Yeah, I find that an important detail with some of the things that we learn in the next book. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to think of that. Ferris says, "Well said, Cora. I almost believed you meant that."
Right.
She said, "You have always believed the worst about me, Ephesus, and rarely have been disappointed." He replies. Ferris says, "It needn't be this way between us. The future has many branches." And she says, "No, Ephesus." And Grimm realizes that there's some big history, and he just kind of like slowly backs away and tries to be silent. Ferris says, "Oh, so you've never learned to see, I take it." She has never learned how to see the different futures the way that Ferris can and suffers from, and Folly is developing currently. She asserts that she had a poor teacher, but in time I learned to create the future I desired. And she says, "Building a new world is never easy, my old friend. What fun would it be if it were easy?" But then they go to business and to begin negotiations. And Ferris asks, like, "Where do we begin negotiations?" She says, "Oh, you misunderstand me. I'm not here to negotiate." Back and forth in the polite tea party. "And I'm here for Ephesus's collection. And why precisely should you believe I would allow you to take it?" Is it because if you do not, Folly and Bridget, although she doesn't name them, will already have eaten their last meal. And so Ferris says, "If I give it to you, then you will release them." Cavendish says, "Pardon me, I fear Ephesus is suffering from the first stages of senility. As I have already explained to him, this is not a negotiation. I have them. I can destroy them without a thought. If you do not give me your collection immediately and without protest, I will do so."
This is what having all of the cards looks like. So she I have all of the cards. This is a royal flush. Good freaking luck. And you're just going to give me whatever I want, and good day. So,
yes. So now we get to see, with a kind of macro lens view, of having all of the cards versus being able to see the future.
Right.
And who wins? Mixed bag, but they're playing their different games in their strategies against each other in an interesting way. Ephra says, "I know you, Cora. You offer scant hope for their survival, and all I offer you is the absolute certainty of their death. So I have the cards. What can you possibly do about it?" "Neither child has any long-term value to campaign. All you need to do is ask yourself one simple question, Ephesus. Oh, and what would that be? Do you have it in you to sacrifice 2 apprentices in one lifetime? And that bit just gets dangled there and then never spoken about again.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's some very like close incidental accusations here that she was his apprentice, and now she basically, knowing that, accused him of sacrificing her. And give me the backstory, please. I would like to
I'm
know.
sure we'll get that at some
So,
point. But yeah,
Not till book 5.
I
The
dare
other
say
big thing that dangles in the second book that I'm just going to highlight that I remember it. And then we get
we're
no
gonna have to
backstory.
be we're gonna have to be really careful with our phrasing right now. But other than that, I was gonna say, I dare say in book 3 we might get the backstory, but I'm gonna go optimistic on that one. So
in 4 years.
I'm not going to speculate, because I was told we were going to have a Dresden book by my birthday, and we're a month past that. So
you have a birthday every year.
Yes, that's true. But this one was very specifically like, it's going to get submitted by the end of the year again. And I'm like, let me know when it's in my hands, because unfortunately that's where we're at with that. So yeah.
Oh. With all the tension, Grimm is thinking thoughts, and Cavendish, scarily, knows what they are. And he says, "Captain, if you draw that pistol, you can draw that pistol if you choose, but you will wish you were dead before you bring it to bear upon me or pull the trigger." And Grimm just accuses her of, "I presume that it was indeed you who guided the Auroran destroyers in for their attack on the shipyards." And Cavendish doesn't exactly respond to that. She just kind of smiles at Grimm while never looking away from Ferris, and very creepy. "This is the work of that spider at the top of the spire, isn't it? He always did have a knack for picking capable agents. I'm surprised he dared to involve himself." This is just another point in which Albion, the man, really, really seems to be like Tabby, just acquiring capable people everywhere he goes. I'm sorry, I got distracted by more tinfoil.
I was like, share with the class.
Well, what's a tinfoil? What's a tinfoil? Because I was going to say, it seems like Harry kind of does that too.
Oh,
not
sure.
deliberately.
It's about this, because Ferris says to her, "How little you know Addison, Cora." Of course, Ferris is using his personal name. He always has. But this right now implies to me that Ferris was teaching both of them at some point together, that Addison and Cora have a personal relationship, or at least did.
Maybe. I wouldn't read that far into it, but Ferris has worked with him before. She was his apprentice. It's entirely likely that they've been in the same room together or whatever, but she just didn't pay attention, because it doesn't seem like she learned the right lessons from Ferris, for example. But what I was going to say too is, like, on the Addison front and everything, is like, I feel like Butcher goes through and he makes his good guys like hyper competent. Like, it was mostly plain in Codex Alera, right? And so Tavi is hyper competent and all of that stuff, and then he just makes the bad guys that much more competent, right? And so you have the same thing with with Addison, where it's like, has he made a mistake that we've seen on screen? Maybe in his backstory he has, and that's part of his learning or something like that. But it's just like, he collects super competent people. He's hyper competent himself. He's got capabilities that people underestimate, which just makes me kind of concerned for like how crazy the bad guys are going to be when we finally get to start meeting them.
I have to ask, Alex. Is that mock chosen to be on topic? Because then it was a really good choice.
No,
Took
I
you a
don't choose
minute.
my mugs based on themes.
Well,
it's not even her first time using that mug on the show, but
seriously.
I mean, I've just noticed the red Starbucks one. I never noticed that one before.
That shows that you don't watch the podcast or show up when Justin makes the same joke.
I mean, I don't watch the episodes I miss usually, no. And I don't watch the episodes I'm on for obvious reasons.
So which episodes do
So
you
that's
watch?
right. I was like that.
I
pretty much-
don't.
I think that covers it. That's like indoor and outdoor use only. Okay.
Oh no, there are some
Where
episodes
else
of
would I-
Mitch I've watched actually.
Yeah.
Do you watch the episodes you're not on, E.G.?
I have when they're dressed in and I'm interested.
I
But that
watch
was
episodes
more back
I'm
when
not
it
on.
was
Yeah.
when we were discussing topics or theories and stuff, not like I don't watch the casting ones because I'm in charge of budget, so everything's got to go through me anyway.
Right.
True. Smart. Good decision making.
If we're not careful, we are only going to get 3 chapters done today. So
What do you mean we? This is Andreas's fault.
we're all in the same boat together. In the
We're
same.
Pow!
all in this together. That's the high school
Right in the
musical
kisser.
song,
Grim and Cavendish are posturing at each other, and it's not just posturing because they're very actual threats. Grim does have a pistol, and he realizes the futility of doing it, but he has to do something. And he says that you understand my position or my dilemma, madame. It's like, yes, she does. But if she is not seen leaving the Predator in a certain amount of time, then the girls that she's kidnapped will be killed. Horribly, probably by silk weavers. And so their hands are tied, Grim and Ferris is in. So after a lot of more thinking and furrowed brows and how dare she have this ability and she's so scary, Ferris says, do not shoot. She's telling the truth. You won't be able to take this shot. You'll be worse than dead if you try.
I've seen it. He just checked 14.5 million futures, and there's not one where you're going to land that shot. So,
oh yeah. So Ferris says, I wonder, Captain, would be so kind as to have the pair of wagons in my cabin rolled out to the deck for Madame Cavendish, and has to make the point of, I believe the Spire Arc ordered you to support my mission, sir. Did he not? And Cavendish is like, oh, we're so civilized. I have porter standing by to marriage the wagons. And Ferris says, let it be done. And then says, Sycorax, if any harm befalls those girls, the world is not large enough to hide you from me. And she says, I am not the one who has lived in hiding, old man. That is true. What was he hiding from other than her?
was he hiding? The Aurora?
I was gonna say, if he can't open a
exactly where to
door,
find him. Yeah, right.
where's he gonna go?
He's hiding from doorknobs.
Nobody thought to install those sliders that you go into your backyard with, or a balcony.
So Cavendish, having won the bout, says, Captain Grimm, do yourself a favor, live a little longer, remain on your ship, do not attempt to follow me. And he says, I will do whatever's necessary, because he's like the dumb patriot all the way through. And Grimm turns to Ferris like, okay, we can leave. We're going to go do the Verminaster thing. Or he's trying to go back to the mission that they were starting a few minutes ago. And Ferris falls to the floor, and it just explains that he can't. He cannot do anything without his collection. Now that it is taken from him, he just cannot do anything. He can hear Grimm, but no matter. Like, I'll not for, I need 13 needles and a ball of wax, hat pins and a lump of green chalk and 2 left slippers. Folly always got them for me, got them perfect every time. Now she's in the dark, and it's my fault for sending her there. And then says to Grimm, you must find her, you must make her safe, and demands Grimm promise. And then as Grimm is going like, oh my God, what do I do? Because this is so big, and he's just lost the person that was so much helpful. Kettle walks up and says, there's a cat here. Bloody little creature just came running up onto the deck.
Just a quick aside, this is one of the few places where I get annoyed at Grimm, because he's like, oh my God, what do I do? It's like, Ferris just gave you a shopping list. You don't need to understand. You need to bring him those things. And so it's like, shit, let's go chase the cat. And it's like, I get it. And it moves the plot along, but it's like, get get Stern in here and tell him to go find 2 left slippers, a lump of green chalk, and 13 hat pins or whatever, and fucking get the Archmage back on his feet. Like,
Okay.
you're not
So-
thinking, you weren't listening.
So I understand your point of that,
Yeah.
like, go to the thrift store or the garbage disposal or something and go get those things
Here's
that you need.
$20.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also, there's something that's not being stated fully in that Folly always got them for him. She picked them out perfect. They were not just hat pins, they were the specific hat pins that he
And-
needed.
I get that, but you're going to tell
Yeah.
me that just fulfilling the basic thing wouldn't get him somewhat, where it's just like, no, at least he can get on his feet and he needs something. I'm not saying it's going to get him back on the front lines, but
What
I
if it
am
makes
saying
him
it's
go
going
more
to get him back in
catatonic?
the mix.
What if you send him spiraling?
Right? That.
What if you
I
bring back
guess
blue
that could be
chalk
a
and he has a seizure? You don't know.
Because he's not Harry Dresden.
Right. No, it was like the
Harry's
fact
got
that
his own
nobody
issues.
even tried. And it was like, oh my God, what do we do for Master Ferris? Well, apparently nothing is the right answer, because that's what happens.
Because it wasn't the right
Is-
answer.
Nobody did anything.
Harry would have
you
the
know.
same reaction if he asked you for a Whopper and you brought him back like an actual homemade burger. He'd probably throw a fit.
I don't
would
think he's
not.
that.
He would never do
yeah.
anything like that.
He's-
to charity.
He's had enough. Yeah, I was like, he's had enough barbecues at the Carpenter houses that he would probably.
But he wasn't in the mood
Now-
for Burger King then.
Yeah, if you brought him a Big Mac, there would be words exchanged. If you brought him a Royale with cheese, then we're gonna have a problem. But yeah, a homemade burger, I don't think he's that crass. So. But seriously, 2 left slippers, like on the whole ship, I bet you can find that. Hat pins, fine, go to the store, whatever. But nobody tried, and that was the
Also,
part that kind
Why
of
does the Archmage not have like a little secret lockbox with a few emergency things in case he loses his wagons?
she would know about it anyway, so that
Different
would
issue.
just prolong the thing. But
You should have them stashed throughout every level of the spire.
yeah, well, see, now you're thinking like an Archmage, so yeah,
Hold on.
I
gotta update my title again.
thinking like an Archmage or just Archmage.
No, just
Yeah. I had some habits for some of my characters, for some of my higher level wizards that came across as quirks and stuff like that, but like they were usually practical. And the one that got me a lot of guff but was practical was that my conjuration wizard would grab rocks from everywhere. And it's because if you have an object from a location, you can use that as a focus to teleport there. But it just kind of became a meme at the table, because it's like, oh, there goes Periwinkle. He was a gnome. There goes Periwinkle grabbing rocks again. And it's like, yes, because when I'm like, hey, we need to go back to this town and talk to that guy, I have the rock that will get me there, but anyway,
So just Dragon's Dogma is what you're saying.
Sure. Yeah. I have no idea, but sure.
Neither do I. I just think they teleport with crystals in it or something.
Nice.
Okay. Made it to chapter 47, 66% of the way through, 43 minutes. Let's see if we can do this.
Oh, we can get to 69 and then end.
Yep. 3%. Let's do it.
Okay. We go back to Bridget, who has decided that being taken prisoner is more annoying than it had been the first time and nearly as uncomfortable. And she's pulled at the restraints and hurt herself doing so. She's not going to go anywhere. She's so overly frustrated, and being taken prisoner is tedious. And Raoul's not there, which she thinks about a little bit of. That means that maybe he's doing something, but also she can't rely on that because she doesn't know. Or maybe Raoul is dead, which is even a bigger thing that she's not going to think about. And Bridget's trying to talk to Folly and asking if Folly is awake. And Folly is awake, but she's just catatonic. She's just on the floor, not able to doing anything. She had woken up about an hour later. Bridget had heard her move about for a moment, making frantic animal sounds, and then let out a low keen of undiluted despair. And then she simply lain still because they had taken away Folly's crystals. And now she has no one to talk to.
Her fetishes, and not like that. Don't be weird about it, but
You made it weird.
Which no, that's the technical term.
While
Get your
wearing
head
a
out,
super
whatever
Mario
it is.
shareable
So,
things, I mean,
Oh, you mean fetish, not paraphilia.
look, man, if his dad bod doesn't do it for you, what are we even doing here? But
nothing.
you know,
We're doing nothing.
regarding the previous conversation, I just want to point out how she doesn't seem to be too particular about the kinds of crystals that she has access to.
Yes, she's not as far along as him. You know.
No, they don't
No.
have to be left green chalk crystals with pins sticking out of them.
Yeah.
Bridget is trying to be problem solving. What can she possibly do? She really wants Folly to be able to be there to help. And she gets in her pocket and finds a spent lumen crystal that she'd kind of forgotten about because they're everywhere and they're basically like trash. And she wiggles around enough to be able to try to throw it out. And she's really distracted by her hair falling in her eyes and just like very, very frustrated with everything at the moment. And then as she realizes that Folly can't do anything because they've taken the crystals, you've no one to talk to. But she can get Folly to respond of, "Can you hear me?" And Folly can blink. Okay, I have a crystal here, but I'm going to throw it away now. Do you hear me? I'm going to throw it away. It's not mine anymore. And she just kind of tosses it as much as she can to Folly. And Folly says, oh, look how alone you are. And you're covered in blood, which I feel is not good for you, or at least premature.
Right.
Premature.
I like Folly when she's slightly creepy, where it's just like, oh yes, you're covered in blood. Just a moment, like, oh, but it's okay. It's somebody else's or something.
She just met she met a bunch of Korg's people, but crystal form, and apparently they bleed. Who knew?
So now that Bridget has a friend, Bridget can say, okay, Folly, can you see my hands? And Folly says, that must have hurt terribly. Well, how bad is the bleeding? I don't think it should be deadly to you or to her because she has to talk to the crystals, even though they're communicating in this weird three-way conversation. And even though Bridget knows what's going on and she's figured it out, she asks Folly, I need to know what's happening. Why didn't you talk to me? And Folly says, she knew already. She already said it. Bridget doesn't understand the toll etheric energy takes on the mind, how there's a price for power, always, always a price, how heavy it is, how it tears holes and holes and holes everywhere inside one's head. And she doesn't realize how one must find other things to fill in the holes or one simply falls into them and falls and falls and falls. It's not just that Folly couldn't speak, it's that Folly couldn't do anything. She was paralyzed without it. We don't speak of such things often. It's bad form, especially around someone who has practiced longer than you, like Master Ferris. Yes, my poor master, he has more holes than not by now, and yet he holds himself together with pure will. Most etherealists fall, eventually. They die that way, falling while they lie in bed. One cannot feed oneself while falling. Someday it will happen to me, and I'll not be able to come back. She looks to her crystal and says, be sure to thank Bridget for me. She is very kind. There's more implications that Folly is extremely powerful in the etheric sense. So she's more mad than one it would expect at her age of like 17 and going to therefore burn out quicker.
But if you got her one of those beer helmets,
I like that phrase you said, burn out, because that's it's like they're living like the lumen crystals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they don't use candles, lumen crystals.
Well, yeah, because burnout in terms of like, because even the lumen crystal has a little bit of life left in it always. That's kind of the whole thing. But its brightness is gone forever. It's never going to be as good as it was. It fizzles completely, rather than like, a candle just burns out and it's gone forever. But
until Folly gets a hold of it, and then it's a grenade. Yeah. So
right.
Yeah, I kind of like the dichotomy of like the lumen crystal to Bridget is just so much trash, but to etherealists it's just like artillery. So it's just like I kind of like that resource dichotomy as well. So
So now that they've been chatting a bit, one of the guards like rattles something and says, "Keep it quiet in there," and wanders away. They're in some form of tarp thing on the ground, something in a tunnel. Folly lifted her head up for a moment and said softly, "Don't worry, I won't let the mean men take you." I don't know. She has one lumen crystal. So
Yep.
curious what she can do with that.
His poor
Bridget's
odds for the other guys. So
and Bridget, still trying to get out of her predicament, is trying to figure out what she can do. And she's thinking, like, well, what did the heroines and dramas and books do in such circumstances? Frequently, it seemed they would use their feminine wiles upon their male captors, promising them amorous attention, and then turning the tables upon the foe when the moment was right, but before, of course, sacrificing anything like their virtue for the cause. Her criticisms in this section of being kidnapped made this part of her being kidnapped more entertaining to me.
sure. Otherwise, it'd be quite boring, right? You just got her whinging and, being a damsel in distress or whatever, but she's just all like put out by the whole ordeal and complaining the whole time. It's somehow endearing. So,
Yeah, but just like somehow in all the fictional dramas, like it magically works out, and that's just not fair because it's not real life. She
Right.
says in a fictional book.
right.
The meta just gets me.
That's
It's a
that's
win-win. You either get out or you get off.
yeah. She's like, usually they use their feminine wiles, but I think I'm fresh out. So we're going to have to figure out another plan.
Yeah,
So,
I did also like hers. Yeah, she says, besides, Bridget was not at all sure she had any feminine wiles.
right. Yeah.
And even if she did, she felt certain that they would not function as flawlessly in life as they did in tales and dramas.
Do feline wiles count? Because she's probably got those.
Ral's gone.
You just got to hope
I'm saying
that,
she was basically raised by him, so she's got to have picked up a thing or two.
hold on a second. I'm sorry to introduce this here, but I think it's somewhat important to find out that there are female warrior born. They are half souls, and therefore they are technically cat girls. You are welcome.
This book was Jim's real foray into the furry market, and we should applaud him for that.
I mean, he's just trying to be inclusive,
You're trying to be mad about this, but you got nothing. I can see it dance across your face. So
Not me. I am delighted by this revelation, and I wish for the fan fiction people to have fun. I do.
Mm-mm.
Well, and the director's got a new role-playing outline thing she can use, so
No.
imagine what's coming.
this
Release
better
the
not
butthole
awaken
cut.
anything in me. So yeah, right.
Are we at 69 in? Oh, this is the perfect way to end the 69 discussion.
Not even close.
We're at 67.
We're getting there.
Okay, not
52
close
minutes.
enough.
No. Fuck.
That's what we're talking about. Yes.
Oh,
thank
we got
you for
7
keeping
minutes. We can do this.
up. Yeah.
I believe in us.
It's going to take her 4 of those minutes to compose herself at this point. So
That's a different issue.
Yeah.
Let's just skip to the end.
Because now I have to read about Bridget trying to get out of the leather cuffs.
Uh-huh.
Just not helpful.
I mean, listen.
What is
we'll
this?
let you have a moment. So
Has
Take
this
as
become
long
an
as
Anita
you
Blake novel all of a sudden?
These are, as Molly would
Not
say,
remotely, but-
the fun time cuffs.
Yeah.
everything's a fun time cuff if you're brave enough. So
Yeah,
Well, if you're a cat girl.
Bridget rejects that idea and she does not having fun. And so she bleeds on the leather cuffs to be able to stretch them. And it hurts a lot, but it works because leather, it gets more pliable when it's wet. And so after that ordeal and more bleeding,
All thinking it.
you're not helpful.
I don't know that we are, but
Me and Justin, I saw you hiding the smirk, Justin.
I'm just not going to volunteer what I was thinking at the risk of it not being the same thing as I was thinking. So
Fair enough. Go on, Alex.
On the count of 3, you both say what you were thinking at the same time.
I was going to say strawberries. I guess they don't match.
Bananas.
Somebody's done the reading. So.
But they're able, once Bridget gets her hands free, she's able to help Folly a little bit more, and now they have to figure out what they're going to do. But Bridget says there's no way to know what's going to happen, Folly, but Bloody will be on her feet when it does. There is a way to know what's going to happen. Folly and Ferris can do that, but Bridget can't. So just Chapter 48. 68% through.
We can make that 69.
In the middle of a chapter. That's
where there is a will, there is a way.
Right. So we go back to Raoul, who is trying to conquer the 9 Claws, which might be starting a war, which might be something else. And he goes
for sure.
Yeah. And he starts tearing into their territory and finds one of the warrior guard people and says, I will speak to Non now. You will escort me to him. And warrior protests. And Raoul smacks him across the face, as cats do.
I think there's that element too of courtship that comes up, where it's that whole combined love and war thing. I know in the surface, the main purpose was the alliance and the information and that sort of thing, but more than that, it involves, I think, that lady cat, doesn't it? Am I completely off?
Merle?
Yeah, right? Doesn't it?
And I thought Merle was of his tribe. So
Merle is of his tribe.
Oh,
yeah,
she has a whisker.
Crazy.
Yeah.
The silent pause.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I'll shut up.
Well, Ferris, this is not that future. It's a different future where he is from that tribe.
Okay. So Raoul bullies his way into speaking to Non, intimidating everyone that he goes by to run and tell your chief that I come. And just going to go back into that room with all of the dioceses and the furniture, and he's so jealous about it. Yeah. Neen, for his part, looked outraged, as he would. Raoul says, Chief Non, urgent matters bring me to your territory. And Neen says, warriors, this creature has drawn blood of our kin, tear it to shreds. But Neen doesn't get to order them around while Non is there. So more politicking. And Non says that he will hear the silent pause stranger. And there's power struggle between Neen and Non.
Non should win because non-bread is delicious.
I agree. I don't know what a Neen bread is. It sounds anemic.
It sounds like something Andreas would have.
Alex is going to the Indian place later now. Non-bread bread and curry. Does sound delicious.
That sounded a lot more foreboding than it needed to be. Alex is going to the Indian place later.
Like, it needed to sound foreboding.
I know, but it just kind of came out that way.
Now I want buttered chicken.
Really? After we talked about cat girls and leather cuffs, now you want to bring up buttered chicken? I mean, my God.
Please continue. Not you,
Okay.
her. So, just to clarify.
We are at 69%. Congratulations. We're at the cat fight of 69%.
The cat fight.
Yeah, because Raoul is yelling at Neen and Non of like, you have been hunted, or why else do you gather your kits in this chamber all together like a brood of tunnel mice? You hope to protect them. Your people fear the silk weavers and their brood. These are no wild creatures of the surface. And he's kind of describing the Rorans and blah, blah, blah. Neen says he knows nothing of our ways, nothing of what our people may gain. So they've made an arrangement, perhaps, with the Aurorans. And Raoul says, oh, so they have offered you both cream and claw then. What was the bribe? Should your people remain uncommitted to the human war? And so they get new territory, new tunnels in the halls in which our folk can hunt, our tribe can grow, halls free of the human plague. And Raoul points out, you can't trust what a human says, as they've said to him several times. It must therefore be true that the human said it. You are no warrior. You are no hunter. You are an idiot. And Non turns to Ral. Our kits are our future. What would you have me do? Teach them. Will you bow to the will of the humans? Will you show them how to meow and purr for human charity next? And so teach them how to be free and how to be a cat. And they tell us about killing all of the silk weavers that he's done, and like they can go to war and all that wonderful for Frodo type of speech. And then it just develops into Neen and Ral having a fight.
As you do.
Yeah. It's because Ral cannot survive an actual fight with all of the 9 claws. But what he can do is if he beats Neen, the one particular person, in basically trial by combat of who gets to prove they're right by having the bigger muscles, then Ral gets to win and help Bridget and Folly. And Non allows it. Non allows the challenge and to be able to figure out what truth they're going to believe. And that is the end of chapter 48. In the beginning of chapter 49, it's still in 69%. It kind of shows that this is a very long book.
No, in many ways, it's like the scene in
Yeah.
Game of Thrones with Tyrion, where he's like, he talks smack, and it's like, I won't get a fair trial. You and me trial by combat, but I have a champion. Whereas, he's
but
more
Ral's
manly here, Ral. So he does it himself.
Fights his own battles until he makes Bridget do it.
Well, thanks for tuning in to while we weren't recording. If you enjoyed our banter, consider joining our Patreon community at patreon.com/brokenjars. By becoming a patron, you'll unlock exclusive access to our Discord server where we wage epic gift wars and chat about anything and everything. Also, remember that we stream these episodes live on YouTube every Saturday at 5 p.m. GMT. Visit our channel at youtube.com/the Dresden Files podcast show. Throw us a subscription, leave a comment, and give us a like. It means the world to us. Don't forget, check out our website, brokenjars.xyz.
For our Catgirl stream.